I am reminded of the scene in The Godfather where Al Pacino thinks he's out. He thinks he's out of the mafia. He wants to go clean, give it all up, and get into the church, I think he's going for. But I can't remember what motivations he's got. It's crazy. But they pull him back in. They drag him back in, and he can't escape it. And I feel like that with financial copywriting. And I'll tell you why, because I write all these different weird things. But the one thing that it keeps coming back to, it pays a lot of money. I'm interested in that thought. Why is that?
Welcome to The Fix. Sit down with copywriting experts Nick O'Connor and Glenn Fisher as they review, discuss, and improve real-world copy sent in by you. This is The Fix.
There's lots to unpack with what you just said. Okay. Because one of the reasons...
Are we speaking about The Godfather first?
Yeah, I want to talk about the church. Let's talk about the Catholic Church. No. Okay, so we are going to talk about how and why financial copywriters earn significantly more. We were trying to figure it out just a second ago, weren't we? Whether it's double or 10 times more than normal copywriters. It depends on how you bill, but significantly more. So we're going to talk about why that is and what that means for you if you're in the industry. But just before we talk about the money, there is another there's a reason beyond money that you are drawn back in to the financial copywriting industry. And I think that's actually because it's the most intellectually challenging one. You get to really engage with something that's going on in the world, whether that's artificial intelligence, cryptocurrencies, government debt, spending, taxation, politics, whatever the theme that you are going to write about might be. There aren't many, that's you have to engage so fully with what you're writing about that it's really stimulating and rewarding. So it's like you can never be bored doing it, and you earn significantly more. So it's like the perfect combination of ticks a box for your bank balance, but ticks a box for your soul and your intellect as well. And I think it's the combination of the two.
Yeah, I would to not defend, but like to play devil's advocate. I think you can use the intellectually stimulating stuff that you get from observing the world with the natural curiosity you have as a copywriter in, say, writing a single page advert in a magazine or like a out of doors like billboard kind of thing, and you can work on that. But I think I agree with what you say, but I also think it's something to do with when it comes to a copywriter and the idea that you are writing copy and writing a lot of stuff in the modern era, the financial world, but it's also really what we're talking about is long copy and long direct response copy. You get to flex those writerly muscles. Yes, the creative, yes, the intellectual stimulation, but you write a lot and you get to spend time with an idea. I get paid. I get paid to like work for a day on a website and do some tone of voice stuff. It's gone the next day. I've got no kind of interest in it, not in a stupidly cynical way, but just it's gone. It's quick. It's a quick churn. I haven't got long to do it. There's other people need that copy to go and run with it. Whereas when you're working on the one I'm working on at the moment will be 5, 6, 7,000 words probably. That's a lot of idea to kind of get that. It's a lot of writing. There'll be to's and fro's about that. There'll be genuine discussions whereby it's not just can we delete those words, like minor editorial discussions, editorial as in editing, literally. There'll be editorial discussions about, is this the right angle? Is this the best way to interpret that, to express that? And I think that is rewarding. I agree with you on that, on the intellectual front. I think the financial puts people off because you look at me, I'm a absolute weirdo who loves books. I have a duck next to me. I read weird stuff. I go to punk gigs. I do all this stuff. What the business, I can barely control my own finances. What business have I got writing financial copy? But it's because it's financially rewarding, but it's because it's intellectually stimulating, as you say. I don't think there's a lot of other copy jobs, niches that are as effectively so.
No, I don't. I think that's true. And I think, like you say, you're going to spend time with the idea. You can't get it done in a day. I mean, you say 5, 6, 7,000 words. That's at the short end now.
Yes.
I mean, the stuff I'm writing is, if it's 12,000 words, people might say that was short. When you add in the peripheral copy, you're usually up to 20,000 words per project. So you have to enjoy it. You have to enjoy the challenge, but there is something cool about, they usually take about 6 weeks to pull off. Not 6 weeks of work every day. You might be doing other stuff. But there's something about that, immersing yourself into an idea for a long period of time and generating a piece of copy at the end of it and being paid well. So I think it's the immersive level. Like you say, how engaged can you be if you're just working on something for a day? I can define periods of my life in the past based on the ideas I was working on then. Well, that year, that was the year I was writing about this and that. You know what I mean? They were...
Yeah.
So I think that's cool. But let's talk about the money, because it is true. And I never really, I've been a financial copywriter my whole career. I write a bit of other copy, but it's always been a hobby. And I'll be honest, like when we went to our first sort of social things for the Fix or Copywriters Unite and stuff, I always assumed all copywriters, that if they were at the top of their industry, are making a fortune. And it was quite surprising me to realize that's not actually true. It's that that's kind of only true in finance, and it's a bit more complicated. But yeah, I was a shock where it's like, okay, right, I'm used to being like, okay, that person wrote those 3 things that were big hits. They probably made 5 million quid last year, and then it's just a completely different sphere. That involves writing in America to get that kind of result. But and I'll stress, I've never made a £5 million pound royalty. But you know what I mean? Like that's the reward at the top of the market. So like, why is that? There's a few reasons, and they all, well, one, they're worth understanding, but they also imply like a certain way of working, and there's a certain mindset you can adopt. So I've been writing this masterclass about how to get ahead in the financial copywriting industry. So I have thought about this sort of stuff all week. I'm about to record it, so that'll be going out quite soon. That will be available to everyone. And I've tried to sort of boil down everything that I've learned about copywriting, not about how you actually write it, about what's important. What qualities are you looking for in an idea? What qualities is a publisher looking for in a writer? How do those things work in relationship to each other? So I've been thinking about it, but you need to start with what it is you're selling. Okay. That's the root of why it's so lucrative. So what do I mean by that? Well, we're selling financial judgment. In some markets, that's advice. Regulated markets where it's like, we are giving advice. Other markets, it's not advice. You can't call it that. But it's all offering an opinion and a judgment on a stock, a bond, a commodity, or whatever. It's going up, it's going down. It's judgment. We're selling judgment. Okay. So we're selling expert judgment, expert wisdom, expertise that helps you make decisions with your money. Okay. So that's really important. The other side of that is, who are you selling it to? Somebody who has a serious need for investment ideas, investment advice, investment expertise. They want to make better decisions with their money. The root of the entire market is that relationship, that those people, those customers have a serious investment need that the financial publishing industry seeks to meet. Those people are very high value customers. People who, obviously, they're investors, they're probably very successful. They've probably earned a lot, started a business, sold it. They've got money to invest, and therefore they have a high lifetime value. They're valuable customers. We're not selling low value. We're not solving low value problems. We're solving extremely high value problems, which means that if you could be successful at solving those problems for your customer, if your customer will buy your work from you because it's good quality and it helps solve the problem, you can charge a lot for your advice, and those customers are worth a lot. And that's the route. So like, if you have a business where the maximum value of your customer is £50, it does not matter how good at copywriting you are, you're never going to earn a fortune in that thing, unless you're able to blow the scale out to incredible levels. But how much is there of that? How much money is there per sale that can be really realistically and reasonably shared with you? Not that much. Whereas the lifetime value or the customer value in the financial industry might be £3,000. Okay, right. Okay. Now, if we can make this work, we're operating in an industry where you can share in the results of that. So it starts there. You need to be selling to people who are high value, who have serious investment problems and goals that they need solving or help with. If you go any lower than that, the numbers won't stack up. So customer value is probably, it's a really boring answer, but it's what creates the value, right?
Well, I was going to ask you, because I'm thinking this is not by any means a situation where we're saying everybody should become a financial copywriter. That's not. I think it's worth being aware of that world, being aware of the opportunity. If you might not be aware of it at all, you might just not know that exists. I didn't know it existed until I replied to some mad advert by some madman who worked at Agora at the time and fooled me into the world. I didn't know what newsletters was and all that kind of stuff. So there might be some people who just I did not realize that existed. Cool, let's move into that. That's great. But if you are not of that mind and you're still I've just got no interest in writing financial copy and what have you, I'm interested in it. What do you think the lessons, and you've kind of already, I'm leading you a little bit because you've already covered it to a certain extent. What lessons do you think you can learn from the writing for the financial niche that can be applied generally to all copywriters? And I'm thinking in terms of high value, the customer, going to where the customers are. So I can imagine straight away I'm going, right, well, actually it's jewelry firms. It's places that have money where customers are spending money. Property. Can I get into these other markets? It's no coincidence that one of my other major areas of copywriting, aside from financial, is for property, because they've got millions of pounds, like buildings in Canary Wharf and all this stuff. They've got the money behind it because they're going to have a lot of customer money coming in. So that's why they can pay that stuff. But what other lessons do you think? Well, you might not agree. The question's leading because I do think it's worth. But what elements of financial copywriting, and in inverted commas, are worth learning about anyway? Both in terms of a structural thing, i.e. the costing and stuff, but also the fact that you do learn about products, you do learn about the world, you are intellectually stimulating. What are the best takeaway for a non-financial copywriter from the financial copywriting world?
There's quite a lot of ways of answering that question. By the way, there are, in my experience, we don't need to persuade anybody to become a financial copywriter, because there's tons of people out there trying. Yeah. I think the bigger issue is actually that there's a lot of nonsense advice out there on the internet for people who don't know what they're talking about, advising those people incorrectly or steering them in the wrong direction. So it's actually to just have a proper conversation about why some of these things are the way they are, is actually useful. So first thing I'd say, it's actually stage 2 of why it's so lucrative. It's measurable. And in copywriting niches or areas of the copywriting industry where your copy can be accurately measured in terms of clicks, sales, revenue, whatever, will always pay you more than the ones where they can't measure you. This is obvious when you think about it, but it seems to be more of a revelation than Well, I'd never expressed it like that until quite recently. So because it's direct, because generally financial advice is sold directly, through an email list. So it's, there's a trackable link involved. There's somebody's on an email list. They're interested in financial ideas. You could sell your work to them. Because of that, because people are able to accurately measure both the value of the customer and therefore the value of your copy, I wouldn't say you have more leverage in the industry, but you can say, I know for a fact my copy this year has generated, what was it? I just got the document last week. In the first three quarters of the year was 6.5 million, I think, across 2 markets. That might be not quite right, but you know what I mean? It was in that region. Somebody sends me that number. It's related. It's related to what I earn, but it's someone's measuring it. There's a number on my head. I want to try and get to as close to 10 by the end of the year as I can. Nobody's challenged me with that, but I want to. So because we're talking to high value customers and we're measuring the performance of the copy, it starts to become an industry where copywriters have a bit more leverage and a bit more of a specific value on their head. Though some of the work that you do, say, in the property market might be different to that, where yes, it's very high value, but can they say this piece of copy generated X? If they can't, there's a cap on how much you can earn. And I think I don't want to speak for your finances, Glenn, but I'll let you. I think that's true. There's a cap on how much you can earn.
Absolutely. Yeah. But also it's worth saying, on both sides, what we kind of early doors established here, there's 2 sides to it. The money side, which I agree, that because you can't measure it, we can't put a value on it. And therefore, what you really, in the bitter world that we live in, what that really means is anyone can claim the success of a campaign. Anyone can claim that, it's nothing to do with that. It's to do with this. You can't prove that it was your words that made the difference. It could have been any number of factors. Whereas if you're measuring the copy and you're split testing the copy against things, you can do a design change and measure it against that, or you can change the words and measure against that. So that's the one. But yeah, so you definitely, the measurability on the monetary value is key there. But the other side of that is, from a personal fulfillment point as a writer, the work I'm doing on a financial promotion, say, will be, as I say, people will be discussing it. They'll be going, in your experience, do you find that this would work better than that? Does that work better than this? Based on proven points that you've had in previous iterations of that. Whereas in a more brandy world, and I don't want to get too, but in that kind of, this is it, there's no real, almost all the time, it's like, no, we'll just go with what we had before. Or it's like, yeah, we'll do. There's no intellectual thought as to whether, is that the right way of, is that how people react to this copy? And so you miss out a little bit on both for the same reason, I'd say, because there's no measurability. So you're losing the value, or the value add that you can get from being able to measure copy and therefore ascribe a value to the copywriter. But you're also missing out that intellectual rigor and discussion and proof.
It's testing.
Because you've not got the testing. So that it hits on 2 levels.
That would be, so if I was giving advice to somebody who didn't want to work in finance, but wants to learn the lessons of finance, I'd say try and work with places where high value customers, where your copy is, the value of your copy is measured. The next level, if they can measure the value of the copy, they can test, they can learn. So and financial businesses tend to do that. They say, we don't know what works. We need to put things in the market against one another and let the customer show us what they're more likely to respond to.
But it works. I'm not going to name names because I don't know if we've got permission. I don't know what it is. Yeah, because let's call the person Quambo, who's a member of our Fix Academy. They have been using this mentality to go with companies that are not in the financial space, that are in completely weird and wonderful niches, but because they've managed to show and evidence the benefits of measurability, of testing, they're now coming back to that person in the academy going, can you write more for us and do this? And it just shows that even in quite a weird niche, I won't say that, as I say, I'm avoiding saying the detail, but that weird niche, and it is a weird niche, but they're now using the principles that we've learned from financial copywriting, i.e. measurability, testing, and actually have now ascribed greater value to that copywriter. That company has gone, all right, that copywriter's I can see that they've helped us make more money. So, I'll pay them some more money. So
just one key point that I always just try and stress is let's say you want to work in the pet food market. Okay. Well, that's quite low value, so it doesn't tick that box. But if you can work with someone, it doesn't have to be low value, but it's going to be lower value than what we're talking about. No one's going to spend £10,000 on pet food. Do you know what I mean? Not anyone you'd want to spend time with. You don't want to be an evangelical if you can avoid it. So you don't want to go to a business that doesn't measure and test and try and persuade them to. Sometimes that works. I mean, I never bother. Actually, if you're not doing it, I don't want to work with you. Try and find companies that are already selling direct in one way or another, measuring and testing, because those people you will be held in a higher value in those companies, and you won't have to argue your case like, oh, we think you should be doing it. It's like when people try and get into email copywriting, they all too often they make the mistake of going to a business that doesn't do email copywriting and trying to persuade them to do it, which is fine, but it's nowhere near as valuable as just finding a business that's already doing it and working with them to do it better, because you're not having to battle with them. So you don't want to necessarily have to fight the corner of these things. But if a business is selling direct, if they've got high value customers, if they're measuring and testing, it doesn't matter if they're in finance, that's ticking a lot of boxes that we like. So that's some structural stuff. But there is another way of answering the question, which is, so I'm trying to draw, which is backwards. I'm trying to draw out what people outside the industry can learn from those inside. So I'm going to come back to one of my favorite themes, which is chaos and order. And one of the ways in which I describe what we do in financial copywriting is we turn chaos into order for our customers. There are very few things in the world more chaotic than a financial market. Think of all that data, all those opinions, all those securities, all those instruments. They're all trading all the time, or most of the time, whatever. Signals all over the place, noise everywhere. It's chaos. And our job is to tell a story and to present our worldview or our guru's worldview in such a way that that chaos starts to take on some sense of order, because order is the first step to understanding, and understanding can lead to anticipation and prediction and profit. That's the relationship. That is true in other markets too. And if you can start to look at, it's a little bit more conceptual, but if you can start to look at the world like that, like if those are the dynamics of the market, if we provide information or a solution that allows chaos to become order in some way, I think there's a sort of copywriting alchemy that happens in that process. It's a little bit like Bill Bonner used to give the talk when we started at Agora, where he would talk about information being free and wisdom being very, very, very high value. And I remember once at the Chateau, him saying, the secret to copywriting is to turn information into wisdom. And you don't have any different information to the rest of the market. We have to present it in such a way by telling a story. I'm ad-libbing around his talk now. We tell a story that turns that information, that chaos, into order, information into wisdom, chaos into order through the vehicle of storytelling. I think that's the magic formula for really high value copywriting.
Yeah, I agree. So you've recorded a masterclass, or you're about to record a masterclass on Nick. Give us, and we're going to make that available for everyone in the world. And it's going to be, for the first time ever, we're going to force everyone in the world to watch it.
Yeah.
It's going to be an enforced viewing of the masterclass. What's the cleverest line that you're going to say in that?
That's a hard question to answer. Well, the first half is talking about some big picture stuff in the industry. So impact of AI, the types of people that publishers want to hire, the types of people publishers don't want to hire, the group of people, the cohort you want to be in, the cohort you don't want to be in. Because I think, 3 years ago, financial markets were booming, financial publishing was booming. It was maybe easier to get a job. Now, a lot of people are being told, we're not hiring, we're not doing this. That's not necessarily true. People aren't hiring in the same way, but there are people out there that they will hire. So I've spent the beginning talking about that. It comes down to ideas. Obviously, I develop on that. And then in the second half, I talked about ways of thinking about ideas, ways of capturing ideas, how to actually understand what a good idea is. Because I think, spoiler alert, lots of writers don't ever really, they hear this idea, big ideas, what's your breakthrough idea, whatever. They don't really understand what it means. They don't really know how to recognize it when they see it, and therefore they can't capture it. So some thoughts on that rather than, delete these words from your headline and you'll make it stronger. I haven't done any of that.
Is it true? I think I read it on what's it called, Reddit forum, that you capture ideas by using a net you've devised and made out of Jammy Dodger, the card insert in a packet of Jammy Dodgers.
I do use that, yeah.
And just chicken wire.
Yeah,
and if you call it the idea net, Nick's idea net.
So
or NIN.
I'm just going to continue being serious.
I'm serious.
The more I try to explain this process, the more the metaphor I use is trying to capture lightning in a bottle, right? But there are two elements to that. Like, one is you have to recognize what the lightning is. That's like knowing what a good idea is, knowing what it smells, knowing it when you see it. Oh, that's good. That's great. I don't know why. But then the bottle is quite important as well.
I was going to say, it sounds like a silly thing, but I was going to say, you need to know how you're packaging that.
Yeah, how do you get it down?
How does it look like? Yeah, it's no good. I think it's like, to go meta for a while, we are giving copy advice to people in a very honest and open way, in a very, what I hope is an authentic way, and we're sharing as much as we can about what we do without getting grotesque.
Although the Jammy Dodgers...
Although we'll go there. One day we will be in certain outfits. Anyway, the point being, though, is that I think we don't even know quite how to package that yet. And that's because all these things, you just take it for granted that, that should be in that form. Like, that's a good idea. We should do it like they did that. But it's like, no, actually, that idea might work better to reduce it to a very boring thing, but that might be a better webinar than or it might be a better billboard than it would be an app or a thing. And how you actually bottle that and package that idea is just as important as the idea.
Yeah, and I think the more I do it, the more I realize those two things are really important, because it's no good being able to spot an idea. That's a big idea. Yeah, but it has to appear on the page in a form that's palatable or digestible to me. So I've talked a bit about that. Do you know what? A large part of it is, like, to use a different field, creative field. I'm obsessed with watching people talk about songwriting. I'm not a musical. I love music, but I'm not musical. Can't sing, can't play any instruments. And I love watching. So the cliche thing is the bit where in Get Back, the documentary, where Paul McCartney comes up with Get Back. So, and it's like it drops out of the sky, and it's the closest thing to watching magic I've ever seen. Because to me, as a non-musical person, it's like, how did you catch that? It's like it's not there at the start of the scene. It's somewhere in the universe, and he channels it somehow. And you listen to songwriters and they all do it differently, but there's all some version of that magic. It's capturing the lightning in a bottle. Like, how did you get it? You're sitting by the well until the song, whatever. Not to get too highfalutin about it, because it's a different art form, but I think capturing your big idea in copywriting has a similar feeling to it. You have to be able to catch it. So I've spoken about that because I think I don't want to like recap everything I'm going to talk about, but I think that's the core skill. That's the bit that's very hard to do. That's the really, really high value part of the industry. And if you can crack that, you can earn amounts. You all of the cliche things that people say about financial copywriting become true at that point. But before that point, they're maybe not true. But once you can do that, you've cracked it.
Do you need big muscles to be a financial copywriter?
No, just puny little arms.
That's fine. Then we're all safe. We're all safe, and
what we're going to do is we're going to arrange an Ask Me Anything where people can just fire questions at both of us about process on financial copywriting, how to get into the industry, who to approach, how to do this, how to do that. Like, we're going to try and do that at some point in the next month. People can write in with their questions in advance. So if you write to us at feedback@thefixcopywriting.com, people can write in, or you can leave a comment underneath the video, whatever it might be, and get yourself on the Fix email list. We cover some of this stuff in the Fix Accelerator live calls that we do, but we're writing about this all the time in the Fix. And getting on the Fix email list is the fastest way of making sure you don't miss any of these things that we're doing, whether it's a social event or whatever. So that's the only way I'd sign off, because I know we've talked about certain things and people might be sat there thinking, what do I do about this? What do I do about that? Who should I be writing to? How should I be pitching? All that stuff. We are going to cover all those things, but we'll probably do it in an Ask Me Anything. So send your questions in and we'll get stuck in.
Cool. Well, thank you for your time, Nick. Thank you for saying the word cohort twice.
Did I? What did I say? I was in the
highlight for me, a highlight of the episode.
My highlight was very much the bit where I compared myself to Paul McCartney.
It's not the first or the last time that I think.
I like to think of myself as the Lennon and McCartney of the Fix.
Yeah, I mean, I would say them the Ringo, but I can't keep track. If you ever see me playing drums, it's an embarrassing situation, especially for a man who's meant to be the rhythm section, like with the bass.
You're McCartney.
I'll be McCartney. Yeah. One day I'll have a proper beard. One day I'll go through the bearded McCartney phase of my life. But anyway, I've got to go get my haircut.
Mate.
Probably be gone by the time you see me next.
And I will see you. I'll see you tomorrow in Sheffield for Copywriters Unite, and I'll see everybody else next week for the Fix.
Yes. Goodbye. Au revoir. Arrivederci.
If you enjoy the Fix and want to get access to even more good stuff, join the Fix Accelerator today. Get access to special masterclasses from Nick and me, watch expert interviews with industry legends, join live copy feedback sessions every week, and get connected to our very own private copy network. Visit thefixaccelerator.com for more information.